You're looking at more than just an old industrial structure. You are looking at a piece of the city's working history, standing at 401 North Beach Street. Long before the surrounding neighborhood fully developed, this area was shaped by railroads, agriculture, and industry. In the early 1900s, Fort Worth was growing fast, becoming one of the most important transportation hubs in Texas. Trains moved cattle, cotton, and grain through the city every single day. Around 1918, a local operation called the Smith Brothers Grain Company built a grain storage and processing facility here. At the time, the setup was much smaller than what you see today. Mostly functional buildings designed to store wheat and move it quickly between rail cars and local markets. Grain was a major part of the regional economy. Farmers from across North Texas and the Great Plains depended on cities like Fort Worth to store and distribute their crops. Facilities like these worked non-stop during harvest seasons, with workers loading, unloading, and operating equipment from early morning until late at night. But this site was only at the beginning of its story. In the mid-1920s, the property was purchased by Universal Mills, a much larger company with plans to expand operations in North Texas. After acquiring the site, they began transforming it into a large-scale milling complex. Concrete structures replaced older materials. New processing equipment was installed. And most noticeably, massive grain elevators were constructed, towering silos designed to hold enormous amounts of wheat. These silos weren't just built for size, they were built for efficiency. Grain would arrive by train, be lifted through conveyor systems to the top of the elevators, and then distributed through the facility using gravity and mechanical processing systems. At its peak, the mill was capable of processing thousands of barrels of flour every day. As the drone moved around the structure, it's easy to imagine what this place once sounded like. Machinery constantly running, conveyors moving grain, the rumble of trains arriving along nearby rail lines, workers communicating over the noise of equipment and engines. During the 1930s and 1940s, Fort Worth had become one of the major grain distribution centers in the southern United States. This facility operated alongside other large milling and feed companies, including Ralston Purina, helping supply flour and feed products across Texas and surrounding states. This was a time when industrial facilities like these were symbols of progress. They represented growth, jobs, and the expanding infrastructure that helped cities thrive. For decades, operations continued here as technology slowly improved and production demands increased. Then in 1962, the property entered another phase when it was sold to Allied Mills Incorporated. Under Allied Mills, the facility remained active, continuing its role in grain storage and processing. However, the industry itself was beginning to change. Newer plants were being built in different locations, designed with more modern equipment and improved logistics. Transportation methods were also evolving. Trucking began to replace some rail operations, and larger centralized facilities started becoming more efficient than older urban plants like this one. Over time, operations here gradually slowed. The constant movement that once defined the site began to fade. Fewer trains arrived, fewer workers were needed. Equipment that had run for decades eventually went silent. Like many industrial locations across the country, the building didn't disappear. It was simply left behind as the industry moved forward. Today, the structure still stands as a reminder of Fort Worth's industrial past. From above, the scale of the facility is still impressive. The tall concrete silos remain the most recognizable feature, rising above the surrounding area just as they did nearly a century ago. Even after years of exposure to weather and time, the construction reflects how heavily built these industrial sites were meant to be. These weren't temporary buildings. They were designed to last for generations. For the people who once worked here, this was more than just a building. It was part of their daily routine. Generations of workers likely passed through these doors, operating machinery, maintaining equipment, and keeping production moving through changing decades. Every industrial site has its own story, and this one reflects the broader story of Fort Worth itself, a city built through transportation, agriculture, and hard work. As the drone pulls back, you can see how the city has grown around it. Roads have changed, neighborhoods have expanded, modern businesses have replaced many of the industries that once defined this area. But structures like these remain. They stand as quiet landmarks, reminders of an earlier era when grain, railroads, and manufacturing helped shape the identity of Fort Worth.